Hi kids! I am here today to show you how we are going to make the binding of our sketchbook now that our sketchbook papers are glued together. So we are going to take a look very quickly at this picture off to the side of an example or the book parts of a hardcover book. Now, if you're not making a hardcover book, you still want to make sure that you have all of these pieces. So I'm taking a look at this part over here. What we have already are our pages that we have glued together. What you'll notice from mine that might be different from yours or the original, the first sketchbook that I put together, is that I used packets of paper, whereas this blue sketchbook is just stacks of paper on top of each other. So I made little packets, stitched them together, and I glued them. We're going to talk more about the parts of a book next class, but for right now, I just wanted you to kind of see what it looks like from a taken apart version. So we're going to focus on the center part right here today for this demonstration video. I'm going to be showing you how to add, we are not going to be using gauze, but we are going to be using a piece of cardboard in its place. We are also going to back this to the book cover in our next demonstration video, but first we have to prep all of our pieces and get our bookmarks in place if we decide to have one. We also need to get the book back on there before we put it onto the cover. So let's get started with creating our book back for our sketchbook. Now, if you have access to some small bits of cardboard that are a little bit thinner than like packaging cardboard. So this one came directly from the bottom of my shopping bag. And I really liked this one because it's flimsy enough that I can bend it, but also strong enough that it will hold the paper together. Now I'm going to show you a quick little, what I like to call cheater version of how you can measure this and not have to spend too much time on the measuring process. Because remember, this is not going to be seen. This is just to hold your bookmark in place and the back of your book so that when we attach it to our cover, it's sturdy. So let me zoom in very quickly so that you can see what I'm working on here. Now, what I like to do is I like to measure the book here onto the cardboard, and then I'm going to use a ruler to correct it. So if you have a piece of cardboard that's already been cut, you're going to use the corners that have already been cut perfectly because that just eliminates measuring of a straight line. Now, I'm using my measuring mat to make sure that all of my cardboard and books are lined up correctly. If you don't have a measuring mat like this, you can always use your ruler. So you can place your ruler up against the paper, make sure your ruler is level, and then you can align your book to the cardboard backing. So I'm going to do this for both sketchbooks, the stitched and non-stitched, so you can see. What I'm going to do here, so I'm going to stand this up. I am going to match up my edges. So what you can't see, because this is flat, is I'm pretty much taking my book and lining it up directly to the edge of that cardboard there, directly to the edge of the cardboard here, and then I'm going to make a line and measure where I want to cut my cardboard so that I can back it to my book. And I'm also going to double check this too and make sure that it is even because I don't want to cut a little less so that I don't have enough covered. But I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to run it very lightly along the side of the book and then just along the edge right here till my lines match up. Now, if we look at this line, it's super, super crooked. And we don't want a super crooked cut. So I do a double measure. I measure the actual book and then I measure the actual inside. Now remember from measuring before, we do not line our book up with the edge of our ruler. We line it up with the first line on our ruler. So like this. So this is 1/4 of an inch thick. So now what I'm going to do when I measure this is, again, I want to make sure my measurements are correct. So I'm going to line up the cardboard with my first line on my ruler. Again, we are using the inches side of our ruler, not the centimeter side. Now, when I measured my book, I noticed that it was at the 1/4 inch mark right here. So I'm going to make a little dash right there. And actually, I'm going to switch to my mechanical pencil because it has a better point. Now, what I'm about to show you is how to make a straight line so that when you cut your backing, it's even all the way across. If you follow these steps for measuring, you will always have a straight line to cut. So I'm going to make my little dash there. I'm going to move partway down. I'm going to measure, again, lining up my cardboard with that first line, and I'm going to mark on the 1/4 inch. Do the same thing again on the 1/4 inch. Same thing again on the 1/4 inch. And now to make sure that my line is going to be perfectly even, I'm going to show you a little trick. So now that I have all these little dots, I know that I can take my ruler, I can line my ruler up with the dots, and all of my dots will line up. And this is how you get a perfectly even line. So you'll notice that this one's just slightly off, but that's okay because all of the rest of my dots are lining up perfectly. So that's why I have you do multiple dots. So then, once I have these lined up correctly, I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to drag it across. And now I have a perfectly straight, even line. Now I'm going to fix this up over here. And this one I'm just going to kind of add a little bit of extra just to be on the safe side. I could always trim that later. But I'm just going to square that off. But now the difference that you'll see here is that I have the space of the book, but I also have a straight line for where I want to cut. Now I do this twice just to make sure that I'm measuring correctly. I like to measure my book on the piece of paper and kind of make like a test line. And then I use the ruler to measure here, get my 1/4 inch mark, make those marks, and now I'm going to cut this out. Now, if you have a pair of scissors that are heavy duty, that you might have to use those for this step because cardboard is a little bit harder to cut. So if you have like kids' scissors, they may not cut through this. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut through my cardboard. And I'm trying to be super careful that I don't cut too much at once. And this cardboard is a little bit harder to cut. So take your time with it. Don't try to rush through it. And you'll notice I don't close my scissors till I get to the very end. If you close your scissors all the way when you are cutting, what can happen is it leaves a little, like it'll cut a little bit extra. And it can actually rip your paper. So now that I have this, what I'm going to do again is I'm going to add some glue here. I'm going to add some glue to this side of my cardboard. I'm going to place it onto my book. And I'm going to add my binder clips again. Now, if you are one of the students who wants to add a bookmark to your book, this is the stage where you would add that bookmark. So you can see right here, this is the bookmark I'm going to be using for this one. Now, once I have my cardboard ready to go for this one, I'm going to place my bookmarks where I want them. And you can see I stitched these together just so that they stayed together and they didn't move. But I'm going to add a little bit of glue on this side and here. And I'm going to place it there. And I'm going to put my cardboard piece over that. Now I have to remeasure a piece for this because obviously this is way bigger than this one. But once I get that cardboard piece measured, I would place it over my bookmarks. And this is going to secure my bookmarks in place so that when I add it to the cover, these are cinched down and they are secured between the book and the book back. Now I'm going to be making another video, a more detailed video of how you are going to attach your bookmarks. But because the sketchbook I'm making is not going to have any of the bookmarks, we're just going to add our glue. And again, remember, we're going to get a little bit messy, but that's okay. So I'm going to spread the glue. And this time I'm adding just a little extra. And if it kind of seeps out of the sides, that's okay. I'm going to clean that up. But I'm going to spread that so that it doesn't run. I can kind of set that on its side for a second. I'm then going to add my glue here. I'm going to give that a nice little spread. Little spread all the way across. And if I notice any areas that are a little bit drier that need a little extra, I can add some. Like this part's a little bit dry. You really want to make sure that the ends of your book back, these over here, have a little extra glue. You don't want those to lift. Okay, and so now you may need a friend to help you with this. I'm just going to very lightly press that on there. And I'm going to take my, I'll line this up so that it's even. I'm going to take my binder clips again, and I'm going to squeeze. I may have to use the bigger binder clip for this one because we have that cardboard piece. But we just need to hold this end in place so that it sticks. So I'm going to take my binder clip and go boom, right at the end, like that. Set this one down. And it's okay if this part moves around a little bit. Like that. And then I always like to secure one in the center just to be on the safe side. Boom. And I'm going to let this sit. I'm going to let this sit, and you'll see that the glue is kind of squeezing out of the seams a little bit. So if you do notice that, just kind of fill in your gaps that you have. But just press those down. Make sure they're all secured on there. You can touch up any areas that you need to. You can kind of move this a little bit if it needs to be moved, but we're just kind of going around, checking the book, making sure that it's secured to the book back. Once you have that glue kind of secured on there, you're going to set it off to the side and you are going to let it dry. While this is drying, we are going to work on building our cover, and that is going to be in the next video demonstration. If you are a student who is adding a bookmark to your book, you will go ahead and take a look at the next video that has how to add a bookmark to your book back and book interior. I can't wait to see which method you all use and how your sketchbooks turn out.